All right, everybody, welcome to Heat Check. We got Faz here. I'm excited for this one. It doesn't seem like too many people are excited for the playoffs based on the scheduling, but I'm ready to get it knocked out. How's it going, Faz?
Hey, it's going well. For the first time in a couple SML playoffs, we have been able to schedule a heat check on our own time. We don't have to fight any game times. We're
Yeah, this
just
is
whenever we're free, we'll do it.
this is nice. Only one game played so far. We got RD and RD's
Sort of.
computer, yeah,
Yeah.
and Prime played. And other than that, we can go through these. Which one do you want to take? You want to take the NFC?
Y- yeah, I think I did AFC last time, so I'll
Okay.
switch it up. I'll do
All
NFC.
right, sounds good. So let's start. We'll start in the AFC then. And first game we've got the Browns and the Jaguars. I'm gonna go with the Jaguars. I think
Hmm.
Bean has been. It hasn't been the most success in the playoffs, but he's got more playoff experience than Noel. I know they just played, but I think that kind of works to Bean's advantage anyway. Trying to beat somebody twice in such a short span, I think is going to be difficult. You know, Noel wants to run the ball. Run defense
Yep.
is his weakness on that side. Um, he's got okay wins. He beat Dump. He beat Dan. He beat Bean. But his losses, you, Dom, Colt, and Prime. The Colt one really kind of stands out. And we've seen him kind of go back and forth on how much he likes Watson. I think that's going to be Bean coming away with that one in the first upset of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good tout. This is a fun matchup. It's nice to see. Well, it's always nice to see Bean avoid Prime because then I feel it
Yeah.
gives us a good chance to evaluate him in the playoffs. One thing stands out to me in this game, in this matchup. It is Noel and it is the rush defense.
Yeah.
23rd in the league. He's been good with everything else. But in the playoffs, the game slows down. We talk about it a lot. Possessions mean a little bit more. People tend to run the ball a little more in the playoffs. I don't think Bean is going to be very excited to be going to the pass game with Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if you watched the last Noel and Bean game, but he actually, I believe, should have tied it up in the end, and Tannehill overthrew an easy touchdown. So I think we're going to see a little more ETN in this game, a little more running, slow it down. I think that's going to help. I think it's going to help the Jags. And if it comes down to which defense do I like to get a big stop in a big game, I like the Jags.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that one. So then we had Prime over the computer, 20-3. So that moves Prime on. Um,
Yep, that was an easy one.
and then we've got a good one here. I think it's going to be Dump and Matt. Um, both teams. Well, Dump I think sometimes overestimates how good he is, and Matt underestimates how good he is. So it'll kind of be a battle of those two. Um, right now, Dump's defense that's really his problem. 21st in points, 28th in yards allowed, 23rd in pass yards, 29th in rush yards. Can't seem to stop
Yeah.
anybody.
Yep.
His only playoff team that he beat was Bean, and he was 1-1 against him. And then I guess we'll count QB. Um, that's what 7-10. Um,
Yeah, it's a little dicey on whether
yeah,
that makes the cut.
but his losses, he lost obviously the one to Bean. He lost to Noel, QP, Monty and Meats. Neither one of them even made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then he lost to Matt. So he's already beat him once. That was very early in the season. But I'm gonna go with Matt. I think he's like I said, already beat Dump 23-14, beat him by 9. He is 28th in yards and 30th in rushing yards, so he's not exactly moving the ball, but he's
Hmm.
he's throwing it fairly well. Defense is kind of middle of the pack in yardage, but he's fourth in points allowed, so he's getting the stops, getting turnovers, not giving up the points. The only thing I have on Matt is he relies on Waddle and Hill a little too much. Right now, those two
Hmm.
guys double the receptions of pretty much everyone else he's got. So
Right.
if Dump can find a way to take those two away, which he's got a good secondary, he's got both
Hmm.
his safeties to superstar. That's going to be, I think, the key for Dump is take those two away and make Matt do something else.
Yeah, for sure. Little dicey out there. The secondary is good. The secondary is not particularly fast.
Yeah,
Um, Isaiah Rogers does have 95 speed, but that still puts him what 3 speed points below Jalen Waddle. So that's not even bringing up
yeah,
99 speed Hill. That could be a bit of an issue. Defense in general for Dump, like you said, is a bit of an issue. This is just a defense that just bleeds yards and points. He has only given up less than 20 points 3 times this entire season. Um, Two was to Figs, one was to Colt, one was to Beans. Every other game he's getting, above 20, above 30. So it's been pretty ugly there. You need defense to win in the playoffs. Matt is a proven playoff guy. I think it's crazy to not go Matt here.
Yeah, I'm going to take Matt as well. So that moves Matt as the 5 seed is going to face Prime. We'll get a Matt Prime game again in the playoffs, and then we'll get a Bean Dan game. Let's start with the Bean Dan game. Bean kind of had, I guess, a run of bad luck with his matchups in the playoffs. Finally gets an ult. I think he gets over the hump, gets a win. But then he immediately faces Dan and the guy that's got the number one defense in every category. And Bean going to come in with Ryan Tannehill or whoever he trots out there at quarterback. I think this one's just going to be an easy win for Dan. I think we'll see a return to Dan ball where it's just the running back check downs. We may not even see Stephon Diggs get on the field. So I think Dan's going to fairly easily come away with this one. The only thing with Dan, he's got that top defense, but he needs it because his offense is just kind of middle of the pack right now. It's not really blowing anybody away, even with Diggs, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen. He's just kind of middle of the road on offense, but the defense is just smothering everybody right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the defense here is crazy. And you're going to need a quarterback to beat this team. Beans doesn't have one. It's really going to be as simple as that. I think Beans can hang around. Like you said, Dan's offense is not great. But yeah, I don't even think he's going to need the offense in this one. I think he could possibly win this one on on just his defensive points scored. So I think Buffalo is a slam dunk in that matchup.
Yeah, I think so too. And so that's going to then bring us to Matt against Prime. We've seen it plenty, really, in the last 2 seasons now.
Mm-hmm.
Prime, other than the loss to two-step, doesn't really have any bad losses. He's lost to the Bills, the Patriots, the Eagles, and the Packers, and then the two-step one playing his backups. No big deal. But his best wins, Matt and Biz. That's the 2 top wins, and Biz, we'll get to him later, but I don't think he's a real threat as a 6 seed anyway. But the problem with Prime has been his defense. Really, it's defense and offense. He can't stop the run game, and he can't run the ball. Those 2 things have made him one-dimensional, and you've seen it in the big games. He just can't finish off teams. He can't even score damn near more than 3 points against Dan. So unless he can find a way to not become one-dimensional, I think I'm going to give the edge to Matt in this one. I think Matt is very good at taking away what you want to do, and then he can just leave you to do what you can't do. And right now, that's run the ball.
Yep. Yeah, this is kind of a nightmare scenario for Prime here. Kind of seeking that first Simbardi of the cycle, first appearance even of the cycle, and he's got to face Matt in the second round, a guy who generally, in a way, has his number probably more than anybody else in the league. Like you said, the matchup is bad for him. He can't run. He can't stop the run. We know that Matt is gonna run the ball. He wants to slow the game down. He does not want to get into a shootout with Prime and the Chargers. It really is a kind of a terrible scenario for Prime here. With that said, I'm still gonna pick him. I think he's gonna be more dialed in than ever. And right now, I don't trust Matt's offense to punish Prime when 'cause I think Prime's gonna make mistakes. I think Prime it's not gonna be an ugly one, or it's not gonna be a pretty one. I don't think Prime's gonna go out there and score a bunch of points. So I see Matt having chances to put the game away, and I'm not sure I see him doing it. So I think Prime escapes. I think it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be kind of a slugfest, but I think Prime does get out of this one with a win.
Okay. So we've got opposite guys getting to the AFC Championship to face Dan.
But
I'm not
regardless,
sure it matters. Like we said, his defense is smothering right now. We've already seen him play both these guys, and I think he's a combined 3-0 against them this season.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give Dan the nod to the Super Bowl. Knew it was only a matter of time before he figured out this Bills team. And right now he's got the defense clicking and the offense doing just enough to get there. So I've got Dan moving ahead to the Super Bowl for a second time.
Yeah, I think regardless of who he plays in the AFC, I think Dan's coming out of this one. No Monty to knock him out or to come close to knocking him out. it really is the defense. Everybody's having trouble moving the ball on this. He's got 23 combined sacks out of Von Miller and Odafe Owe, freaking field. Um, Good amount of interceptions. He's got speed everywhere with Devin White. He's got Isaiah Simmons. This team is just loaded. I don't see either Matt or Prime having the offense right now to score enough to beat Dan, because Dan's gonna slow the clock down. He's gonna run. He's gonna get at least his 2 touchdowns. And I'm just not sure I see Matt or Prime scoring 2 touchdowns on him.
Yeah, we have already seen Prime only got the 3 points, and Matt got swept. So
Yep.
Dan clearly has both their numbers this season anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so moving over to the NFC side, we've got Eagles, Saints, Bucks, Bears, and Cardinals, Commanders. We'll start with Eagles, Saints.
Yeah, intriguing matchups. This one, I think the most, not the most, but this one has some cool kind of storylines to it. For you, I think this is kind of an ideal scenario. I just talked about Prime. His nightmare scenario is Matt in the second round. I think you drawing QB is huge. You have had a couple playoff struggles here. I think last season was the loss to Meats.
Yep.
I think this one gets you back on track. Listening to Total Access, 13 straight wins, I believe you have.
13.
Yep, 13 straight. Most of them have been pretty convincing. You have scored 40, 52, and 41 points in your last 3 games. You scored 42 on Matt in week 13. So to say the team is buzzing is a bit of an understatement. And now you get a guy that historically you have just whooped on. I think every time I've seen you play QB, you've scored 40 on him. That is regular season. That is playoffs. It hasn't mattered. This guy's come in with just a piss poor defense. He has given up 5,800 yards on the season and 4,300 pass yards on the season. So this is a team that is just kind of getting run over. He has only won three games since week 11. They have been over Paulie, Meats, and Gouda, 3 guys at the very bottom of the standings. I think QB is cooked, and I will be shocked if he holds you under 35 points.
Yeah, so right now, like you said, my offense seems to have figured things out. We did lose Miles Sanders in that force win against the Jets, but then Gainwell comes in, runs for 200 yards, and gets 4 touchdowns in a dev game. So run games didn't seem to fall off too much. Big thing with QB though, like you said, his defense is just awful. It's absolutely
they're
terrible.
bad.
And then on top of that, he's thrown 41 interceptions with his quarterback. So a bad defense combined with a terrible quarterback as far as ball security, and we've seen it's led to one win over a playoff team, and that's QP. But he's got losses to Matt, Doink, Biz, Bean, Fig, Meats, QP, or I don't know why I have QP there. I don't think he lost. Oh, no, he did lose to QP because they played twice. And then Mike even beat him, and then Dump, and then you. So it's not like it was a tough schedule where he's losing, just can't get out from under the schedule and he's losing games. He's losing to everybody from the top pick to the bottom pick. And so I'm going to definitely pick myself in this, but more so because, like you said, this matchup, I think, is couldn't have gone better, really.
Yeah, this is one that kind of gets your adrenaline going, gets you all hyped up for your next matchup. So it's a good one to get out of the way, start the momentum, get it rolling. I see QB coming out and throwing a pick early and snowballing from there.
Yeah, I think the good thing too is he's a guy that's historically pretty good, so I'm not going to take him lightly, but at the same time, I feel confident in the matchup.
Yep.
All right, so that was the 2 seed on. Next up is 3 seed versus 6 seed, QP against Biz.
QP against Biz. This is we'll see if Biz shows up. That can be an issue for him with highly seeded teams. So now he's going to be facing a Super Bowl favorite in Q. On paper, there's really no reason for this to kind of extend past the first quarter. Q is absolutely stellar. He's got a top 5 defense in just about every category, 6th in rush yards. So give him a slight buffer on that. Biz's offense, 27, 31st, 27, 25th. So it's hard to see him moving the ball. But if there's one thing that we have seen that makes this game a little tricky, it is that Q and I kind of play a similar style of Madden, which is we will not just go in and cleanly win a game. There's always a little bit of showmanship. There's always a little gamesmanship. There's always a little bit of I can make this look a little more sexy, or I can get a little more points, and that leads to mistakes. And Biz is a guy that will do whatever it takes to win this game. We don't have any doubt about that. He will pull out some suspicious tactics. He will do what he's got to do. So if Q gives him that window, it could get a little dicey. If he plays with his food, before you know it, he could be in a tough spot. Now Biz has never shown an ability to close out a game, so this one could just be closer than it should be. But ultimately, the Bucks win. That is one thing to watch, though. Hopefully, Q does not take himself too much of a hole to get out of. But still, I can't pick against the Bucks.
Yeah, so Q, it's kind of impressive. He's sitting there 6th in offense, 2nd in defense. Only losses to playoff teams, so he doesn't have a bad loss on there. And he's rarely had his full offense. We've seen Mike Evans go down, then we see Godwin go down as soon as Evans comes back.
Yep.
Now the only issue
I think Godwin is back.
Yeah, I think they're both back.
Yeah. Okay.
So it could be dangerous in the playoffs. We'll see if it changes, because right now James Cook is almost double everyone's receptions for his team. But he's under 6 yards per carry, so he's not really running the ball effectively, but he's throwing to him a ton. And Biz right now sitting at 10th in points. He does allow yardage, but he's not allowing scores. His defense is what's carrying him. So if Q can get the offense clicking, especially getting all his pieces back and maybe getting away from Cook, kind of making him one-dimensional, I think it's going to be a big win for him, because as bad as QB has been on defense, Biz has been trying to one-up him, being equally awful on offense. So if QP can score any points, I think he's going to end up just running away with this game. Right now, Biz's only playoff team that he beat was the 7-10 Saints. So he's not exactly beating guys down. He lost to the Bucks, twice, two-step, Woods, Gutta, Monty, and Prime. So it's not even like it's, like we said earlier, it's not a tough schedule. He's just losing to anyone and everyone, and then managed to put together 9 wins to make it here.
Yeah, and he's backing into playoffs certainly the wrong direction. Obviously, quick start, and then week 13 hit, and boy, his regular tendencies set in 1-5 since week 13. So that's not exactly how you want to enter the playoff conversation.
Nope, not at all. All right, so that brings us to the one that looks like it's going to be played Sunday night at 8 p.m. The Cardinals and the Commanders, Dom and Doink.
Yeah, happy they could find a time to play this one. This was my favorite round 1 matchup between either conference. I'm just labeling this one the Peak Chaos Bowl. You have no idea what's going to happen when these guys play. There's a chance that both of them are going to be just hammered drunk. These guys, it's the special teams, it's the block kicks, it's the kick returns. You've got Zach Wilson as one of the quarterbacks. Dom has had some issues with Kyler Murray. Obviously, he's quite a bit better than Zach Wilson. But we saw Dom win on the miraculous kick block and the or I believe Doink blocked QP's kick to keep himself alive last playoffs, and then Dom had the kick return touchdown on the lateral against QP.
Yep.
So anything can happen in this game. It really feels like a coin flip. Neither one of them are playing their best football right now. I believe Dom has had an especially tough end to his season here. He's lost his last 2. He actually did lose to Doink earlier in the season, week 13, 21-18. Feels like a coin flip. At the end of the day, I trust Dom's offense to get a score when needed. Neither of these guys have highly ranked offenses, but Doink is really struggling with the quarterbacks. If it's not a prayer to McLaurin, it's generally not much of anything else. I trust Dom to put together a methodical drive when needed. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in a close one with a lot of probably wild plays.
Yeah, so the two losses he had to Coop and Finns, those kind of look bad. But then his other losses were you, me, Doink, and Bean, all playoff teams there. He's really it seems like he's struggling on offense, and that's where he's having issues. But the defense is still playing well, and Dom does a very good job of taking care of the ball. He has kind of that playoff offense where he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. On the other side of the ball, you got the Doink. Really, neither his offense nor his defense is standing out above anybody. They're kind of just same as some other teams kind of one side or the other, but Doink on both sides of the ball is kind of mediocre, but he leads in sacks, and that's a big one to get the ball back and get more opportunities. He's got wins over QB, Dom, RD, but his losses aren't bad. It's Matt, me twice, DW, and Dan. The only thing is, all but Dan were by 2 scores or more. So
Yeah.
he's not even really competitive in those games where he's playing the big teams, other than the 3 where he got wins.
Hmm.
And again, in the playoffs, you kind of have to be. I feel like anyway, you have to be able to adjust. You have to be kind of well-rounded. You can't come in one-dimensional. And when you play some of these better teams, that's where they get you. And right now, he's got one receiver with like 70-something receptions and nobody else
Yeah.
with close to half. I think he may have some that are at half, maybe 35, somewhere around there. But Turner is
Hmm.
clear and away his number one guy, his go-to guy. And with a guy like Zach Wilson, if you have to look to a second option, you're probably in trouble, because who knows where that ball's going with the paranoid trait and
Right.
just Zach Wilson. I've seen it firsthand, and I think that's gonna be his kind of downfall. Dom's gonna take away Turner, and unless he's getting jump balls to McLaurin like you were talking about, which he does like those one-on-one aggressive catches.
Yep.
If they're not coming down with the ball, though, he's gonna be in trouble. So
Yeah.
I've got Dom winning this one.
Yeah. Yep. I think the defensive line can keep him in the game, like you said. It'll give him chances, but at the end, I just don't trust the offense to do what they need to in a big moment.
Yeah, and I think Dom having Kyler Murray may be able to kind of neutralize that defensive line anyway, because he has the speed to get away from him.
Right.
All right, so that leaves us 2 versus 3, me versus QP, and then Dom versus you.
Yeah, very good second round here. I'll start with Dom versus me, rematch of last season. I just don't know that Dom's offense right now is good enough to keep up in this one. I think he's fighting it a little bit. His defense could certainly keep him in it, but unfortunately, with my maybe last ride with my super OP quarterback, it just doesn't matter all that much right now. He is just he's just crazy. He's starting to. You can tell the regression setting in. He's missed more throws this season than he did last, but it's still not enough. I don't see Dom's pass rush doing enough to affect Rodgers and forcing sacks. And one thing is Rodgers has fumbled a lot more this year. But if you're not hitting the quarterback, that's not going to matter. So I think I gotta go myself in this one against Dom.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that that's the way that's going to go, especially Rodgers right now, still very, very good, and that's going to be a problem for Dom. I didn't get to see him at full strength because he was sitting some of his starters. I sat some of mine, so it wasn't a really good look, but it felt like the defense wasn't as good as maybe the numbers show, and maybe that's kind of buoyed by the Coop and KJ getting them twice a season. But the Packers offense is going to be something different anyway, and I think that's going to be difficult for him, and I think you walk away with that one.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 versus 3. This might be the number one matchup of the whole playoffs. To be honest with you, this is 2 really exciting teams with you and Q both coming in at 14-3. Like we said, you've won about a bazillion games straight, and QP has his roster back. So last time you guys played, there was no Godwin out there.
Yep.
I'm having a tough time picking it. I think I'm actually leaning towards you. I think it's going to be big to come into this one.
Not really excited that was felt like you were surprised by that pick, but okay.
No, not like that. Not like that. But I think when a lot of people have talked about the NFC, majority of the conversation people have said me and Q. So maybe it would come off as a surprise. But no, I don't think it is a surprise. You've been hot. You've beaten him once already. You've gotten a good look at the offense. It'll be a little different with Godwin out there, but you've gotten a good look at it. I think it's going to be low scoring. You guys both have phenomenal defenses. But I think this is the game where Davis Mills kind of hurts QP a little bit. I trust Hurts a little bit more. He's obviously not, an absolute super stud of a quarterback, or at least one for a sim style league. But I think this is the one where Davis Mills probably maybe sails 1 or 2 and you come away with a big pick. Obviously you have a pass rush that can rival his. You're good in the trenches. You're going to be able to run the rock, I think, regardless. And yeah, I think you're gonna take this one. I think we're gonna see you in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough seeing both receivers out there. I think that'll really change the dynamic of how the first game went because um, obviously an X factor on each side is a lot different than just one of them out there, especially when
Yeah.
my secondary has two rookies and then Darius Slay. So Slay was able to pretty much take away one, and then the other guys weren't matching up against Godwin. So
Hmm.
we'll see how that changes. Not having Miles Sanders is big.
Yeah.
I know Gainwell had a big game against Rams, but shit, everybody has a big game against Rams. We just saw Tiny bench Saquon Barkley and then just trot a rookie out there and run for 150 yards. So
Yeah. Yep.
maybe not the best show of where Gainwell's at or how he's going to replace Miles Sanders. I'm actually going to go with QP. Me and QP, I think dating back to last cycle, now I've got him twice. I beat him once with the Jets and once with the Eagles this cycle. So he's due
Hmm.
for a win. And going back to last cycle, we were right around 500 against each other. So I think I'm going to lean towards QP in this one. Plus, I don't want to double up where we both pick the same team because that just seems to be the kiss of death. So we're gonna go ahead and
Fair
we'll
enough. Fair
pick
enough.
QP in this one.
Yeah, you got to you can't tempt fate on that one.
Yep.
So okay, so we'll have we actually both have different championship games on both sides.
Yeah.
So me and you, and I can't lie, man, this is like I think a season where I've been a little hesitant. I think last season from like week 2 on, I knew I was winning the Lombardi. Haven't had the same feeling this season. I've had a couple more misfires from Rodgers than I would like. I've had a couple more sack fumbles with Rodgers than I would like. Um, and obviously, I mean, my offense is Aaron Rodgers. Like, I am not going to adjust to a run heavy game plan,
Yeah.
barring anything other than a snow game. That's the only thing that would make me go to the run. Everybody knows that. I know that. My opponent knows that. And yeah, I've just missed a couple too many throws. You're gonna have an advantage probably in the pass rush there. You and Q both. Whichever one of you plays me will have that Hunter and Barrett, and then you've got all sorts of depth. Everybody can rush from the middle, from the outside. The linebackers can get home. So yeah, I don't know. I can see this one coming down to one possession, and maybe I get a throw at a sack, or I get some kind of strip sack. I just have a bad feeling that somehow it's going to come down to a throw that I mess up. I get too confident in a window and I try to force something in, and I don't know. I'm picking you. I think
All
you're
right.
gonna go.
So we've had our games. The last few have come
Hmm.
down to the wire.
Oh
Going
yeah.
back to week one this week or this year, last season or cycle, whatever you want to call pre-blip with the Jets, came
Yep.
down to the end on that one, and then the Super Bowl prior to that have all been close. But
Hmm.
this season, I felt like I played week one really well and still ended up short. Could not stop Rodgers, and I think that's going to be the difference.
Yeah.
I had the same issue trying to stop Matt with his receivers, and you're going to come in with two guys in Watson and Dobbs that are both going to be probably X factor. If I don't know if Dobbs is X, he might just be superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just superstar for now. I might
Yeah,
have missed the dev bracket for him. We'll see.
yeah, and if you
Right now
did,
he's
it's
just
because Watson
superstar.
did too good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yep.
I think just that passing game, like I said, I'm going from Bradbury to two rookies now, and I think that
Hmm.
just may be too difficult to face some of these teams with multiple X factor superstar wide receivers, and I think that's going to be where the matchup will turn. And I've still got you going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly. I hope it goes that way. I will say that. But yeah, I think it really is going to come down to I have this weird feeling that it's going to be Rodgers the other way, but you're thinking it's going to be Rodgers the invincible way. So I mean, he's obviously the X factor.
Could still be a little shell shocked, so
Yeah, that's
it may
possible.
have something to do with it. And then if it is you and QP, I just think that offense is just too good. I think you'll still either way. I think you're going to the Super Bowl.
He plays me extremely well. I will give him that.
Yeah.
He well obviously he knows all my plays. So we'll see. I mean that's a tight matchup. I think I'm due. I'm 0 for 2 against him in the regular season right now. So I'm due for a win over QP here.
All right, so that gives us what I think is the two best teams in the SML facing in the Super Bowl. you against Dan. And this time I think, despite his defense and how good it is, I think the Packers offense is just too multifaceted that he can't stop everything. And his offense has been mediocre this season, and I think that's what's going to cost him the Super Bowl and have you winning it.
Yeah, as long as I'm stopping the run game, I like my chances in that. It's not going to be a pretty one. That's going to be a very low-scoring Super Bowl, I think. I'm sure there will be plenty of Pauly comments in the Twitch chat. But yeah, I think if it is me and Dan, I think I'm going to win that one. I don't know. I trust my offense to get a score a little more than I trust his to get a score, and I don't think there's going to be many scores in that game. So that's how I'd have to roll with that.
I think that's the difference for me is the offense. All right. So
and I think because I picked you to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
so
yeah. Okay.
I picked you versus Dan, and that one is definitely going to be low scoring.
Yeah, usually.
And I think that one will come down to who runs the ball a little bit better in that one. And I think I will give the nod to your offensive line over his offensive line, and that I think is what makes the difference. So I think we're seeing an NFC title, regardless whether it's me or you.
Yeah, I think that's just about a given. Last time I played Dan, it was 13-16, and it came down to a field goal at the end. So I could definitely see it going that way. It's going to depend, and I'll have 3 games leading up to then to find out how that running game is going to do without Miles Sanders. The only silver lining will be Miles Sanders comes back Super Bowl week. So
that's a big silver lining. That's
yeah,
quite the heavy silver lining.
He'll probably come back and then immediately get injured in practice, but at least going into it, he'll be okay. So
the Christian McCaffrey special, play 1 on a pass play while he's blocking.
Blow out his knee or something.
Yeah.
All right, so we've gone through our predictions. Now, I don't know if you want to do the folding chairs again this year, or do you want to talk about the NFC, what they talked about on Total Access, or we can just do both. I'm good with either.
What do you want to do? We got some time before your game, right? I'm down to do both.
Yeah, I got time. It's not till 4, so.
All right, cool. And I don't think we're going to miss one. I'm going to go check the game times, but chances are pretty good.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
If we do, it'll
nothing
be a future,
new in game times.
It'll be a future pop-up, hey, you ready? So.
Hey, anything's possible.
All right, so let's do our folding chairs then. And we'll start with the AFC since we're not there. We'll start with 7. So, Bean, what do you got him at? I've got him at a 7 because he doesn't play prime or you.
Yeah. Yep. I think he's a little higher than we usually. I mean, he's drawing prime usually, so we give him like a 1. Yeah. I'm gonna go 6. I think he should beat Noel. I think. Obviously, it looks a little weird with 10-7 versus 13-4, but I think Bean has more of a history of getting there and kind of more confidence, I think, in winning that one. So I'm gonna go 6. That second round matchup will suck, but again, it's not prime, so
yeah,
it's possible. I'm gonna go 6 for Beans.
All right, so 6 was RD. He was eliminated as the computer team. 5 is
0.
Matt. What do we have Matt at?
5 is Matt. He obviously never puts any pressure on himself. I think he should put a little more. I think he should be somebody in that Dan prime tier in the AFC. I think he's easily the 3rd best team. I'll go 7. I think he should beat Dump, and I think he arguably should beat Prime. Then he's going to be playing his 5th game against Dan, 6th game against Dan.
Yep.
So he's seen plenty of them. He knows what he wants to do. I think Matt has a pretty decent shot at representing the AFC. He's done it once. He's won a Super Bowl, so that excuse is out of the way. So yeah, I'm gonna go 7 for Matt.
Yeah, I'll go there too. I think some of his whole thing about I'm not very good is to maybe try to keep the outside pressure off himself, but I think there still has to be some internal pressure, and I think 7 is probably a good spot for it. So then we have Dump at 4, and I'm gonna give him a 6. I think he draws Matt round 1, which of the guys he could have got, that's probably the better one for him, or at least he'll think it is because Matt talks about how bad he is. But Dump's got to do something to get out of this first round. He's already in a division that seems to be pretty weak. If he comes out here and he lays an egg against Matt, who's not even a division winner, I think that's not going to look good for him. The only thing is he probably isn't too invested because he is moving, but he doesn't really have much else to do. So I don't think he wants to sit
Not
around for the
wrong.
rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, not wrong. I was gonna go pretty low. I was gonna give him a 5. Um, if he wins, we're gonna hear from him. We haven't heard from him much lately.
Yeah.
If he wins, we certainly will get get some noise from Dump. Realistically, I don't think many people expect him to win. When I looked at the polls, Matt was a pretty heavy favorite in that one. Um, like you said, probably the worst division in the SML. Um,
I would say
or
second worst. I would have the
yeah,
AFC
second worst,
North.
AFC
Yeah.
North, yeah, AFC North worst. You're right. Second worst division in the SML, so it kind of expected to maybe do a little better than 10-7 even.
Yeah.
He did make the trade for Justin Fields, so like he fixed the quarterback spot. I think we kind of expected a little more, but I don't think he's quite in it just yet. I don't think he's fully invested. I don't think he's fully making his run. So
Yeah.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and stick with a 5.
Okay. Then we have Prime. To me, highest one on here. This is a
Yeah.
10 and 11 if we had it. You took the best team in the game, and we saw two times going into the playoffs undefeated with the Colts and choked in both of those playoffs. Now coming off a loss with the Chargers in the playoffs, and then gets the computer in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's through the roof right now. There's no way you can continue losing with the Chargers.
Yeah, no way you can continue losing with the Chargers when you also kind of get a built-in bye because RD beat him once this season.
Yeah.
So that's not even a game that he necessarily would have been hugely favored to win. I think it's kind of put up or shut up time in LA. You have Herbert, you still have Mac on the defense. He's not hurt still, is he?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I know for a little bit there he was missing Mac and Bosa at different times, but it looks like they're both okay. So you got Mac, you got Bosa, you got Derwin James. The team is loaded. Right now you're looking at a pretty decent path where you just got to beat Matt and you got to beat Dan. He's under a lot of pressure just to even get there.
Yeah.
Not only has he not won one, he hasn't even made it to a Super Bowl yet. We've seen Monty in a Super Bowl. We've seen Matt in a Super Bowl, both in his conference.
Matt with the Chargers year one.
Yeah.
So the same team, more success.
Yeah. So his Prime he's off the charts. He's redefining new territory in the folding chair scale.
Yeah, I mean he took the Chargers, and it wasn't a question of will he win a Super Bowl. It was going to be how many. He even named his owner, "You guys asked for this," or something like that. Well, I guess we asked for divisional round knockouts or whatever has been going on because right now, not looking good for the Chargers. He doesn't even have a win against a fearsome foursome guy or even the former Big Five, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't even have a win against them this season. So not looking good right now.
It's been tough. It's been tough in LA.
Yeah,
no
the
more
computer
parties in
game
LA.
came at a good time.
Yeah, it did.
So then that brings us to Noel. Noel's a tough one for me. I'm not sure where I have him ranked right now.
Yeah, this is maybe the most unexpected 2 seed of of all time in the SML. Noel Overlord, the 2 seed that of course immediately predicted to lose his game to the 7 in heat check. Sorry about that, buddy.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, you're 13-4. At one point, I think he was talking about how his schedule was actually a lot worse than everybody was saying it was, or not worse, but like a lot harder, a lot tougher to play than people were giving him credit for. So he's kind of started. We see this with Noel when he has good seasons, he gets a little more chirpy.
Yep, he does.
Yep. So I think he wants at least a playoff win. I think he wants at least a win against Bean, and then that would probably give him Matt in the second round. So I think he sees himself being able to win both games. So I'm gonna put Noel kind of high. I'm gonna go an 8. I think outside perspective is probably lower. I think most people, if you ask them, would say like a 5 or a 6. But I think Noel would put a little more on himself. I think he really wants these games.
Yeah, I think so too. I will say he said his schedule is a little bit harder than everybody thought. Well, you got Finns, Field, and Colts, 6 of those games. So if you're a
Yeah,
playoff
I
team,
didn't necessarily say he was right, but
yeah, if you're a playoff team, that's got to be 5 wins at least right off the bat, right?
yeah,
Um, so then you did play a tougher schedule. He had to play you. He had to play
yep.
Dom. He had to play Prime. Problem is, he lost every one of those games. So um,
He did beat Dan. He did beat Dan.
he
That
did
was a
beat
big
Dan,
win.
and I'll give him Dan. That was a good win.
Yep, that
In
was a very
fact,
big win.
I believe it was called on Rolling Without Royce. That one was predicted. So
I think that
so
one
I
was
knew that one was
predicted. You are
coming.
right.
But
Big SML live night.
yeah, but the rest of them, all the big names you played, you lost. So you can say your schedule was, was a tough schedule and whatever. But only one of those games did you even score double-digit points, and that was 14 against Prime after he put up 45. So
Oof.
maybe we pump the brakes and just see where the season goes in the playoffs, because the regular season was kind of a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And we'll see what he does there. But yeah, I did notice, like you said, he tends to chirp more when he's up and having success. But we'll see how long that continues. Beating Bean and moving on to where he would play Prime would be a good one.
Yeah.
A good chance to especially kind of make up for that 45-14 loss.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So our last team in the AFC then is Dan.
Yeah, Dan, I'm gonna go with an 8.5. He does have his Simbardi this cycle, so I think he for a little bit there joined Team Matt on the for the fun of it thing. I think we called him out on it in last heat check and said there's kind of none of that when you take the Bills.
Yeah.
I think we've seen him this season go a little bit more back to serious, and maybe that's because he won more this season. But yeah, 15-2, best defense in the SML by a country mile. I think pressure is pretty high to get there. It's not astronomical because again he has gotten there. He has 1-1, so it's not like Prime where he's still waiting on that. But I'll go 8.5 because I think you do really want to get one with the Bills, if not two.
Yeah, I think when you come out and say that you're never going to lose another game, the cycle, because you got the Bills, there's always pressure. I don't care what you say. And you don't put in as many hours as he does in practice and whatever else to just come out and have fun. Like there's definitely some pressure to win, and I think it's a little higher than because of that. All right, so we go over to the NFC side, and the 7 seed is QB coming at 7-10. I don't think there's much pressure at all on him because all that's been talked about is how he shouldn't even have made it. The AFC would have made it over him with like 6 different guys. Maybe a little bit of pressure to show that the record doesn't necessarily. It's not a good indicator of how good he is, but really nobody expects him to win, so not really a ton of pressure.
No, not really at all. He can't beat me and he can't beat you. That's pretty tough if you want to make it through the NFC playoffs, because it's not like there's a ton of options for other people to knock us out before he sees us. So yeah, with that said, I think he's pretty dang near the bottom. I know some SML OGs, some of the old guard, I think still put him in high standing, but there has not been much to show us that he belongs there. So pretty low. I'm going 3. I think he'd be happy with not losing by a lot in round 1.
Yeah, I think just a strong showing is what he's hoping for. I'm sure he'd like to win as well, but
everybody would like to win.
Yeah, after the last couple of games and the way they've gone,
you're hoping to keep it competitive.
Yeah. So that brings us to Biz. Biz,
Speaking of just trying to keep it competitive.
Yeah. So for Biz, I think it's all in his head because, and I actually got these numbers from Meets. Biz, do you know what Biz's career winning percentage is in the SML?
I don't think there's any shot it's higher than 3. I'm gonna say what 2.25.
You are almost dead on the money. 257.
Wow.
There are only 2 people worse winning percentage than Biz, and one of them almost made the playoffs in the AFC. But Biz did make the playoffs. Right now, this season, 9-8, 53% winning percentage. If there's any pressure on Biz, it's in his own head because that's where he's good. Because outside of his head, I think everybody sees the guy that's a 257 winning percentage player. So I've got it at probably like an 8 internally, and externally everybody's already moved QP onto the second round, so there's nothing.
Yeah, that's seems dead on accurate. I'll roll with that.
All right. Next up is number 5, and really this to me this is where the whole folding chairs even got kind of come up with. Now obviously Meats is the original folding chair, but I don't know if I've seen anybody fold more in the playoffs than Doink.
Yeah,
Because
unfortunately, I think this guy has taken the crown.
Meats was more before my time, but if there's a modern day Meats, it's Doink. Um, he's he's the 5 seed. We've seen him pick to go to Super Bowls, but we've never seen him in one. He's had you on the ropes, and all he had to do is make a field goal, kicks it off the crossbar. I mean, just talk about finding a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That's this guy, and I think it's got to be. The guy was nicknamed Doink. It's nowhere in his PSN. He's never called himself
Oh
Doink.
no, yeah, it's so bad.
He has
I call him
completely,
Doink in other leagues.
yeah, he's been completely renamed. He may have a Doink tattoo for all I know at this point, because he may have family calling him Doink. It's just, it has stuck, and he hasn't done anything to overcome it either. And so I think it's got to be high.
Yeah, it has to be. To his credit, he did make an almost unfathomable kick against QP to tie that one up, and
Yeah.
then proceeded to then lose in overtime. So he had a chance to maybe shed a little bit of the Doink label, and instead he still lost anyway. So that just kind of seems to be the theme. I mean, at some point you're just rooting for the guy to get past this somehow. It's like the yips.
Yep.
I'll go a 7 for him because he's still rocking Zach Wilson, who is just terrible in this
Yeah.
game. I don't think many people expect too much of a run. This is not Eminem in the morning. I think just beating Dom would be considered kind of a success. And then after that, he would, be facing either me. Well, he'd be facing either me or you or QP. So I don't think the expectations are super high, but I'll go 7 just because the history there is just, it kind of keeps him at a stock 6 just on a minimum.
Yeah. All right, so then that brings us to his opponent in the first round, and that's Dom. Dom, we went from Dom talking about how he seemed pretty jaded about not being in that big 5. Always felt like he was right there knocking on the door. And I feel like this cycle we've just seen him kind of fade away. And maybe that's not right because he is still the 4 seed. But it's a division with NYT, KJ, and Coop. It's not exactly. I mean, that's NYT's perfect division if only Dom wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So, he's coming in the 4 seed. He's got a division that should have 6 free wins, and he's the 4 seed. So I don't know. I think the pressure may be high, but I think it's kind of dwindling off as he's settling into kind of where he is as a perennial playoff team. Dangerous guy you don't want to face, but nobody's picking him to win the Super Bowl.
It's tough because with him, a lot of it has been he kind of got dogged by the team selections this cycle, right? So we talked about it last heat check. He took the Saints, and you have to spend the first couple seasons with the Saints just kind of nuking them, and then we blipped. So he really didn't get any payoff from taking the Saints. He switched, and he was lower than all of us. So I ended up with the Packers. QP got the Bucks. You got the Eagles, and
Yeah.
he got the toughest draw out of that with the Cardinals. They're still a good team, but they're not the Packers, the Bucks, the Eagles. So it kind of puts him behind the 8 ball in that. He's building it. It's getting better. His defense is not anywhere near the level that any of our 3 are. So I think that's what really holds him back. And for that, I put him at a 7.5. He's playing against Doink, who I put at a 7. So I'll put Dom at just a slightly bit higher because I think he's favored. 7.5, but realistically, I think the team's going to hold him back from beating any of the top 3 in the conference.
Yeah, I just hesitate to blame the team when
that's fair.
We've seen guys. We saw RD make the playoffs with the Texans season 1. Now he's in the playoffs with the Patriots, albeit kind of backing in. QB is in the playoffs for the second year with the Saints, that same Saints team. And yeah, the Saints cap was horrible, but the team wasn't bad. You had to blow it up after season 1. So
yeah, that is true. That's a very good point.
So I hate to blame the team. How Prime made it to a championship game with the Colts. Like, if you want to be in that conversation, you made it to the Super Bowl with the Jags.
Yeah.
The team can hold you back somewhat, but it shouldn't be shouldn't be your reason for you can't be considered a Super Bowl team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the pressure is probably around a 6 for him.
Yep, that's definitely fair.
So next is QP. QP playing Biz round 1. I think that game right there, the pressure is like a 10.
Yeah, you can't lose that one.
Yeah,
That's
because of
that's talked
everybody.
about like a 1 versus 16.
Exactly.
March Madness bracket. You can't lose that one.
So right there, it's a 10, and then I think after that game, I think it falls off dramatically. I think it's probably more in that 6 range, just because he's not going to be heavily favored in any of those games like he is in that Biz game. But that game is a can't lose game, which means the pressure is actually really high on him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Starts as a 10, drops. I don't think it drops too much. I do think it drops down to like an 8. He does not have a title this cycle.
Nope.
Yeah, no, he does not have a title this cycle. So does have the Bucks loaded team. He does have Davis Mills, which brings it down. I think I had him at a 10 last season because he had Brady. So I'm gonna bring it down to an 8 with Mills, but. The Bucks, this is still a team that, realistically you should be able to get past me or you, even with Mills. And we've seen him. We know he's able to do it. He's beaten me this regular season. He's has not beaten you, but he has beaten you in the past. So, we know he can do it. So I'll go 10 against Biz and then 8 in general.
Okay. All right. Then next up is me. And for the same reason, I'm going to say a 10 the first round, because as much as we've shit on QB just this last 51 minutes, right there is already put it at a 10. But same thing. I don't think anybody has a 7-10 team expected to win in the playoffs. So you don't want to be the team that loses to that guy. And so for that reason, I think it's a little higher.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna go 10 game 1, and then also drop it to I will drop it to a 9. I think you're one notch up from QP. I think your team is a smidgen better. I think your quarterback is better, which is kind of what does it for me. So
All
10
right.
then 9.
So then we go to you, the number 1 seed, and I think it's probably just I'll say about an 8.
Sounds about right.
Still have Aaron Rodgers, and it may be the last season with Aaron Rodgers. So I think the pressure to hurry up and get as many in as you can before you have to worry about what that quarterback position is going to look like, I think maybe keeps the pressure a little higher. But obviously coming off of one already, it can let off a little bit of the pressure. So I'll leave it about an 8.
Yeah, I think 8 is a good spot for it. Coming off a title, some people take a little bit of a break. You can let the foot off the gas a little bit. You get that relief. It's okay. I got mine. I'm okay this cycle. It's not going to be a shutout. But like you said, it is possibly Aaron's last ride. That media scenario scared the crap out of me when they kind of just straight up told me that I think he's retiring. So I would like to get a second one before I have to turn to, God knows who. Hopefully not the backup I have now, because that dude's Garbo. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think 8 is a good number.
Yeah, I forgot about the scenario came up. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting. We're not super excited about that. Pretty much, I think they might have leaked his plans. Schefter didn't lose his number yet. So.
Yeah, and we don't know how far he'll regress, even if he does stay. So that could hurt. I don't know if it's going to drop too many of his abilities. But I will say, I think your pressure goes up through the roof, though, if Biz or QB pulls off the upset. Because that's
that would be a nightmare.
I mean, just the pressure of trying to get it scheduled if you end up with that number 6 seed is going to be enough. But
we'll
to play
see
those
if either
two.
of them responds to my DM.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it for our folding chairs. But we did want to talk about, I guess, what we heard on Total Access about the NFC being weak and how there's teams that are 7-10 making the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, a little surprise segment here on Heat Check today, resurrecting old burning thoughts.
Yeah.
That is a cool topic, just because I don't think they quite hit on everything. They kind of left it pretty open-ended. It felt like the topic on Total Access ended with like a little shrug. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess nothing. One thing I think they didn't talk about is the way the team draft shook out. I think that is a very big key to the kind of the skewed SML records we're seeing. They're talking about the NFC, and we got 1,000 terrible teams here. 7-10 is in the playoffs. We got a bunch of teams at 6-11. One of them's Coop. Coop was right on the cusp of NFC playoff berth. So it's a little shocking here. But here's the thing. We look at the AFC and everybody's talking about, wow, the AFC is so much better. Is the AFC better? I'm looking at Figs just barely missing a playoff spot. We gave a lot of crap for Biz making it. I think you said the only other guy with a lower winning percentage than Biz almost made the playoffs in the AFC, and I'm assuming that was Figs.
That's Figs. The other one, there were two. One almost made the playoffs. The other was KJ at 184.
Okay, well, yeah, wasn't very close to making it. But yeah, Figs at 9-8. We got Colt at 9-8. Guys, the AFC, the records look a little bit better, but here's the thing: we're seeing the Big Five, the fearsome foursome. We all took like the 5 best teams you could take: the Bills, the Chargers, the Packers, the Eagles, and the Bucks. These are teams that normally would be going to lesser players and kind of buffering their numbers a little bit, keeping them around, keeping them alive. You see a little more upsets. We're not seeing those because we took the best teams and we're doing what we should have been doing. 15-2, 15-2, 14-3, 14-3. Prime at 12-5, but again, one of those was kind of shocking. So, I see this, and I don't really see the SML actually being any different than it normally is. I'm just saying that some of these NFC teams that normally would have had better teams, maybe Coop normally has the Chiefs. That's going to give him a couple extra wins than the Seahawks normally might. I'm seeing the AFC North and the AFC South are 2 dreadful divisions. Of course, we're getting more wins for Figs and Colt out of those.
Yep.
So I think we greatly discounted how much of an effect the team draft was going to have on these records. Basically, you have the big guys doing what they're supposed to be doing, winning pretty much every game they're playing in. And then it's really just the rest kind of fighting for scraps after. And we're seeing a little worse in the NFC, but that's because these guys, our teams are more dispersed, right? Dom in one, you in one division, Q in one division, me in one division. Whereas the AFC North and the AFC South, they just beat up on each other, and it's really just 2 not very good divisions. So I think that's the big change, and in having a lot of these guys playing with lesser teams, and really anything can happen at that point.
Yeah, so I looked into it because you mentioned you wanted to talk about this, so I wanted to have something substantial, tangible that I could point to as a reason. And one of the things I came up with, if we were talking about 2 guys in the NFC that are notorious for having weak divisions and maybe even run into those in team drafts, who would your 2 guys be?
That would be Paulie, and that would be NYT, and Meets a little bit.
Okay, so Paulie and NYT, and we'll say Meets a little bit. Meets, his overall career SML winning percentage 70%, just short of 71. This season 35%.
Oof.
Paulie, he's just below 600 this season, 35%. Oof. NYT hovering just below 500 this season, 35%. Those guys got divisions that were not cakewalks. NYT got Dom, best guy that's ever been in his division since I've been in SML, and that's going all the way back to when he had the Falcons, and it was Mike, ZZ, and Noel. And that was probably his toughest division since I've been in SML until now. So you see him falling off of his career winning percentage. Paulie, another guy that had traditionally easy divisions, he's down, and then Meets as well. I'd have to think back and see what his divisions were. He was in the one with RD Dump, and I think Tiny was that's right. It was the year.
That was a tougher division.
That was a tough division.
That was also when he was admin Meets, though, so he was picking very high in the draft.
That's true.
After he was no longer admin Meets, he started to wiggle away from those a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't think there's too much different. I think maybe guys are just being exposed by the tougher competition in their division, and that's making things difficult. If you look at both divisions, so the NFC by career winning percentage, you have in order you, Q, me, Meets, QB, Dom, and Doink are the top. What is that? 7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
top 7.
Top 7, yeah. So that's the top 7, and all we did was we swapped out Meets for Biz. Biz having a a wild year. So he was able to sneak in there. But really, it's the same 6 out of 7 that would normally
Yeah.
be there. QB just with a lower record than normal. And then in the AFC, Dan, Prime, Matt, Dump, Monty, RD, and Bean are your top 7. And you did the same thing. You just swapped out Monty for Noel. Noel with
Mm-hmm.
Finsfield, Colt as his 6 wins right there, or 5 wins, whatever. Right. I think that's probably what's playing into it. I mean, hell, in the AFC, if you look at their top 7, none of them are in the AFC North, so somebody has to go there from the AFC North. And
yep, somebody's got to make it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking Noel, Colt, Fins, and Field. Those are 4 of the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 of the bottom 7 guys. There's only 3 guys with worse career winning percentages in the SML in the AFC. So it's not like I don't think anything's too crazy. The 7 and 10 QB just dropped some games maybe he shouldn't have, but he's traditionally a 67% winning percentage. He's just down this year, but it's the same guys that are in it every season for the most part.
So debunking that a little bit, and that's our burning thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you had QB, maybe not Biz, but if you had QB and he's playing,
I honestly think that it really just throws everybody off seeing that Bears logo in the 6th seed.
Yeah, that could be it.
I think that's really what like sets this whole thing off. Is everybody looks and they're like, wow, the NFC must be garbage.
Yeah, and that's because Biz made it, but you had Fig, Colt right there fighting for it. And if you told me Fig or Colt were playoff teams in the AFC, I'd have told you the AFC does not have 7 good teams.
Fig controlled his own destiny.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like Fig needed help to get in. He like had it in the palm of his hands. He just had to beat Clink.
Yep. But I mean, Clink now has, I think, 5 wins. So, obviously he's a juggernaut.
6 wins.
6 wins now. Yeah.
6 wins. He's a SML legend right now.
Yeah. But if that was what was standing in between you and the playoffs, maybe the AFC isn't quite as good. They just have some inflated records. But I think that's it for Heat Check. We're just over an hour, so we still kept it about the same.
Man, we are as consistent as it gets.
Yeah, and more importantly, not a single game has been played other than that computer game, which didn't really matter. So we snuck it in this time.
Still plenty of time to get your Duck Kings lineups in.
That's right. Go ahead and set your Duck Kings lineups. Good luck trying to figure out who's actually eligible to be picked or played or any of that.
Oh, yeah, I just threw some names on there. I'm sure I'm going to come in last as is tradition.
Yeah, I picked my guys, and if they didn't play, they don't play out. Whatever.
Yeah.
Too confusing. But thanks for being on, Fast. Thanks for watching, guys. And until next season, this has been Heat Check.
See you next time.